Want to talk about something interesting, and that is the fake anti-Semitic incident report list stuff, which I have been going over recently. You know, I made my main channel video about how it's all bullshit, stuff like that, and made a lot of people very angry, though none of them could explain how and why I'm wrong, because obviously the evidence is on my side. And I was thinking out loud, I wonder if I could submit, like, fake anti-Semitic incidents to these organizations, and then have them show up in their anti-Semitic incident list, eventually. Like, I could just straight up make some shit up, send it to them. By the way, I'm 100% saying, you should do this, okay? You like... I should do this, like, make up fake anti-Semitic incidents and email them to these, like, organizations like the ADL and stuff that take reports of anti-Semitic incidents, and then wait a year and see if they show up on their anti-Semitic incident list. Because I'm telling you, none of them verify anything, they just let you make shit up. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's someone who had that same idea and actually tried it. So, Davide Mastracci, this is from last year, this is from May 2020. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there's someone who had that same idea and actually tried it. So, Davide Mastracci, this is from last year, this is from May 2024. He was way ahead of me on having this idea. He actually tried this. Do this, okay? Do this sort of psyop. And then give it a year and see if you show up in their anti-Semitic incident list. So, B'nai B'rith Canada, which describes itself as the country's oldest human rights organization, runs a program whereby people who believe that they have been the victim of an anti-Semitic incident can report it over the phone, an online form, and/or through a dedicated app. These incidents are compiled, and then they release an annual audit of anti-Semitic incidents, which they claim serves as the authoritative document on anti-Semitism in Canada, and which is regularly cited by media outlets, public officials, NGOs, and government bodies. So, basically, the way that they do this is they straight up make shit up. You know, you can't verify any of what they say happened. You know, I went over it on my main channel video. I'll recommend it here just in case someone here hasn't actually seen my main channel video on this yet. This one right here, there is no anti-Semitism crisis, how Zionists constructed a moral panic. I go over this in depth in that video. Like how they construct it, I go over the evidence, I explain everything. So his summary here though is good enough. The overwhelming majority of the incidents their reports are based on and not made public. The organization uses the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. The focus on the reports is on portraying criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic, etc. And when they release their report, they give you no evidence. So earlier this month, he created two Twitter accounts, one pro-Palestine, one pro-Israel. Two fake accounts, etc. And when they release their report, they give you no evidence. So earlier this month, he created two Twitter accounts, one pro-Palestine, one pro-Israel. Two fake accounts. Then he generated fake activity on the accounts to try and make them look real. And then he had the two accounts have like an argument with one another, an Israel-Palestine debate with one another, okay? And then he reported the incident to B'nai B'rith. He reported this anti-Semitic incident, saying, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Israel has no right to exist, blah, blah, blah." He sent them an email saying, "Hi, recently I became aware of the incredible work you do on the annual anti-Semitism reports, and that we are able to report examples of anti-Semitism we've faced through the anti-hate hotline. I am new to Twitter, but have been the subject of several acts of anti-Semitism since I joined. I wanted to ask if I should report each example through the form of your website separately, or put them all together as one report. They've all come from the same user on Twitter, but there are many different examples. Please let me know so I can report them as soon as possible." And they responded, "Hello. Thank you for reaching out to us. I am sorry you had to experience this. You can just respond to this email of the incidents." And then he, cited the tweets. "Hi, Jeremy. I agree these tweets are very concerning. Please rest assured that our advocacy is on it. If you are comfortable, we would appreciate seeing the harassing DMs for our database of anti-Semitic incidents. Thank you again. Here is a photo of the DM. Will the tweets/messages I sent you be included in the database? If so, as one incident or multiple? Sorry, I forgot to reply. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. It is all good. We will continue to monitor this account." And he responds, "No problem. Can I just confirm when these examples are added into the database, my email and name and address will be removed?" He said, "Yes. Such data will not be published publicly. We have numerous people who call us wanting anonymity, and the health and safety of the Jewish community is taken very seriously." So, as you can see, no apparent effort was made by B'nai B'rith to verify the identity of this Jeremy Klein Twitter account. Neither the Twitter account nor the email account included any photo of him. They made no requests for his address or his phone number or any identifying details confirming that he was even a real person. And he said, given the content of the latter emails, he got the impression that was standard practice. Also, the pro-Palestine account that he made these fucking anti-Israel tweets from and that he then reported had one follower. So, clearly they're happy to include as anti-Semitic incidents just random fucking tweets from accounts that could have just been faked or made up or that no one ever saw. And he says, "Despite this, I got the impression from B'nai B'rith's email was that these tweets and messages would be counted as anti-Semitic incidents." He then reached out to B'nai B'rith, asking them why didn't they verify his identity, if they think the tweets were actually anti-Semitic, and why they don't make their database or any of their supposed evidence for it public. They failed to respond. So their most recent anti-Semitic incident tracker announced a record-breaking 6 verify his identity, if they think the tweets were actually anti-Semitic, and why they don't make their database or any of their supposed evidence for it public. They failed to respond. So their most recent of their incidents. He then reached out to B'nai B'rith, asking them why didn't they verify his identity, if they think the tweets were actually anti-Semitic, and why they don't make their database or any of their supposed evidence for it public. They failed to respond. So their most recent anti-Semitic incident tracker announced a record-breaking 6,000-ish incidents of alleged anti-Semitism, up nearly 110% from the previous year. 84 announced a record-breaking 6,000-ish incidents of alleged anti-Semitism, up nearly 110% from the previous year. 84% of those incidents were categorized as online harassment, aka the sort of fucking joke tweets that he reported here. So when you're wondering what an anti-Semitic incident is that these organizations report on, what standard of evidence they use for it, it's random people sending them potentially made up fake posts from one follower Twitter account saying, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Okay? That is what the quintessential anti-Semitic incident that is the backbone of this narrative of endlessly rising anti-Semitism is. What else is there to say? Bad empanada endlessly vindicated forever.
みんながそばに。
もっと早く、もっと強く動く。消え失せろ。飛ぶか。撃て。今だ。撃て。はっ、やるか。
くらえ。全力こ。
呼吸を整えよう。カウント。風が立つぞ。撃て。今だ。行け。ふっ、飛ぶか。ロックオン。
相手を間違えたら
手加減なし。
せえ。みんなは俺が守れ。
もっと早く、もっと強く。あっ、撃て。
相手を間違えたら
ロックオン。今だ。やっぱり僕から離れられないんだね。風が立つぞ。今だ。今だ。撃て。
みんながそばに。
光り輝くがいい。イカズチのごとくカウント。風が立つぞ。皆に祝福あれ。皆のために祈ろう。バタバタ、水遊びの時間だよ。渚のリン、邪魔をするな。真実はまるで影。それ。西風の祝福をよっ。しっかり立ってな。 リンヤにトアの安寧を。バシャバシャ水だ。渚のリン、嘘はいけないね。見て見て見て。左スパッチョ。はっ、しっかり立ってな。
Yeah, this was supposed to be a barber video. Hello, and welcome to the first short Mies video in probably like 6 months or something, because I just don't have the units to really take advantage of what I think Lynette's cool, unique traits are. So let's just get into what those traits are. Lynette is a fairly standard animo unit. She kind of just does the job she's meant to do and no more. She has some additional utility in her kit, but it's not really enough to make you want to use her. So unless you really like Lynette, she's probably gonna go on the wayside of your account. But I've always been very, very interested in her C6. Sure, it gives Lynette an animo infusion and it lets her turn into a bit of an animo DPS. With this constellation, she's only a slight downgrade to Xiao in his premium team. And cool, that's funny, whatever. But the thing that interests me far more is a property of these older infusions, the ones that can be overridden. They don't just change the elemental damage of your normal attacks, they apply their element to your weapon. If I stay in elemental sight, you can see her sword change from white to that light animo green, and applying multiple elements on your weapon far more is a property of these older infusions, the ones that can be overridden. They don't just change Xiao in his premium team, and cool, that's funny, whatever. But the thing that interests me far more is a property of these older infusions, the ones that can be overridden. They don't just change the elemental damage of your normal attacks, they apply their element to your weapon. If I stay in elemental sight, you can see her sword change from white to that light animo green, and applying multiple elements on your weapon allows you to trigger reactions on your weapons. And these reactions work in really weird ways. Like, for example, here, if I use Bennett's Burst, walk outside of it, use Lynette's E, get animo on her sword, I walk inside Bennett's Burst, it triggers a swirl on her sword, but that swirl is credited to Bennett, which is a really weird oddity. There are ways to trigger swirls on non-animo units. So I tried to find something there, but as it turns out, I was actually looking at it backwards. The real answer to what you can do with these reaction on weapon shenanigans is a lot simpler. By combining the powers of C6 Bennett and C6 Lynette, we can, anywhere, anytime we want, guarantee a Pyro Swirl. And that means we can guarantee Pyro Res Shred on any target. You can see me doing pyro damage there through the Hydro Aura that the Aeon Blight Drake has. I don't think you guys understand. Damage there through the Hydro Aura that the target. You can see me doing pyro damage there through the Hydro Aura that the Aeon Blight Drake has. I don't think you guys understand how crazy there through the Hydro Aura that the Aeon Blight Drake has. I don't think you guys understand how crazy this is. This works on Tulpa. This is like an easy and reliable setup. You can make VV do something against Tulpa. I guess we can talk about the second unique aspect of Lynette, which I admittedly haven't found a really great use for yet, but it's cool and I still want to talk about it because I think it will be relevant in the coming year. Lynette is a unit with a fairly unique relationship to elemental absorption. Certain animo units can absorb swirlable elements and make their talents start doing whatever damage was swirled, and absorption has a static priority. There is a flat hierarchy in the order units can absorb swirlable elements and make their talents start doing whatever damage was swirled. And absorption has a static priority. There is a flat hierarchy in the order in which elements will be absorbed by an ability. That order being FEC. FEC, of course, stands for Pyro, Hydro, Electro, Cryo. Like, let's go make a little test. When fighting the seahorse here, if I use Kazuha's skill, it will come in contact with the Pyro that is on himself from Bennett's Burst, and the Electro from the seahorse's Pearl. And because Pyro is higher in the hierarchy, he absorbs Pyro and deals Pyro damage. And he dies. Lynette is different from most other animo units for two reasons. Number one, she has a different absorption priority. What is it? Just take the P, put it at the bottom. HECP. Not nearly as catchy. Leaving Hydro as the highest priority. The second thing that makes her a little unique is that her absorption ability doesn't check to see if there are any elements on Lynette herself. Now, neither of these things are unique to leaving Hydro as the highest priority. The second thing that makes her a little unique is that her absorption ability doesn't check to see if there are any elements on Lynette herself. Now, neither of these things are unique to her. That absorption priority is shared by Animo Traveler, but are you really using Animo Traveler? And Venti also never checks himself for an element, but the combination of the two factors, Traveler is shared by Animo Traveler, but are you really using Animo Traveler? And Venti also never checks himself for an element, but the combination of the two factors does give her some unique roles that I have not found yet. That's why this video of really her, that absorption priority is shared by Animo Traveler, but are you ability doesn't check to see if there are any elements on Lynette herself. Now, neither of these things are unique to her. That absorption priority is shared by Animo Traveler, but are you really using Animo Traveler? And Venti also never checks himself for an element, but the combination of the two factors does give her some unique roles that I have not found yet. That's why this video is not really a full video, because I don't really know what to do with Lynette's elemental absorption yet. I just like it, I think it's cool, and I want to be able to do something with it. Theoretically, with her absorption and the Pyro Swirl setup, she can be a very interesting vape support, but unfortunately, I found out that her application just doesn't always function in gameplay. This is a DPS guarantee found to be able to do something with it. Theoretically, with her absorption and the Pyro Swirl setup, she can be a very yet I just like it, I think it's cool, and I want to be able to do something with it. Theoretically, with her absorption and the Pyro Swirl setup, she can be a very interesting vape support, but unfortunately, I found out that her application just doesn't always function in gameplay. This is a DPS Durin team that I was playing, which is the team that made me realize a lot of these things about Lynette. Using Dea to simulate DPS Durin because she has the same ICD as his damaging mode. And with the upcoming buffs, Mona's going to turn into a decent Vaporize buffer. And while her buffs are good, her application kind of isn't. So to have a unit that can shred Pyro Res and supplement her Hydro application regardless of setup order would be incredibly valuable to her. Its application kind of turn into a decent Vaporize buffer. And while her buffs are good, her application kind of isn't. So to have a unit that can shred Pyro Res and supplement her Hydro application regardless of setup order would be incredibly valuable to her. It's really, really cool that we can do this setup to guarantee a Hydro absorption into a Pyro Swirl, but then when we start to on-field Dea, it's just not enough. And we pretty quickly fall behind on Hydro. So like, I don't know. I hope there's something cool I can do with the absorption in the future, but as of now, I don't really have anything. Granted, I think the combination of C6 Lynette and C6 Bennett, meaning guaranteed Pyro Res Shred on anything, is kind of enough to carry this video. I don't really know that I need to quickly fall behind on Hydro. So like, I don't know. I hope there's something cool I can do with the absorption in the future, but as of now, I don't really have anything. Granted, I think the combination of C6 Lynette and C6 Bennett, meaning guaranteed Pyro Res Shred on anything, is kind of enough to carry this video. I don't really know that I need to show off a ton of absorption stuff. And yes, before you ask, you can do this to guarantee a Cryo Swirl with Chongyun. Whether that becomes a relevant thing, we will see in the future, and in that case, Lynette will be even more relevant. But right now, it's like Bennett is Bennett. You don't have to sacrifice anything by putting Bennett into a team. As for Candace, I don't know. Let's find out right now. I've actually tested some stuff involving this with Candace before, but I actually, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but she might not apply Hydro onto your weapon. So let's see. Oh, I do get Hydro on my weapon, so... Did that... I think that's a Hydro Swirl. Yeah, I don't have Animo on my weapon, so I believe that is a Hydro Swirl. So it does work with Candace, yippee! And then if we ever get an Electro Infuser, it should work with them too. Let me give a quick shout out to my members! Dorsal Fin from twitch.tv/dorsalfin1, Nadrito, Rumpelitos, Pegby, Dottiz, Do, ZaxVDR, Mudkip172, Beef Potato, Roberto Desu, Big Soup, Buffalo Milk, DB, Bab, Starnova, Wang Shoujiang, Aqua, and our newest member. Everybody welcome AZ Byte. Thank you for enabling. I hope you learned something. Have a lovely day.
Hey everyone!
Hello?
Years.
Hello, beautiful people. Nietzsche's teams have kind of a big identity up to 5 stacks. At 5 stacks, his skill does more damage. So generally, the more you can delay your skill, the better. But if you delay too long, it can happen after Bennett Burst expires. And because it's really easy to get interrupted, being forced to stay inside Bennett Burst and dodge and lose some charge attacks because you're close to enemies, it's gonna make you lose Bennett uptime. It just feels kind of bad. And so, despite Lenny not getting a major upgrade to his team DPS from the patch, I still think he's one of the biggest beneficiaries of all of the things that are happening, because he's going to get teams that are, from what I've looked at, slightly better than the current teams with Bennett, but that do not have any sort of circle impact bullshit. Lenny official Durin Chevreurs, from what I've looked at, is actually slightly better than the current best Lenny teams, but you don't have any circle impact. You don't need to stay anywhere, which means you can just run away from enemies. You don't need to be close to them at all, which, one, well, you don't have Bennett uptime to deal with anymore, so if you're slightly slow on your execution, you don't just lose a full charge attack, you just get it a second later. But two, it's gonna be easier not to fuck up because you have more flexibility with your movement. In order to get the Fischl buff, you do need to weave in a normal attack to proc Fischl's C6 at least twice per rotation, but as long as you remember to do that, honestly, things are looking pretty good for Linny's teams with Durin. If you want to have a shielder, you can also replace Fischl for Inefa. It'll be a little bit worse because you don't have the Fischl buff or the Fischl damage, and you are now getting less shred from Durin because you only have one witch instead of 2. But you can build fully Inefa and get non-insignificant overload damage, right? She triggers overload every hit she does, and you get a shield option that isn't that much worse in terms of damage. But yeah, so all in all, Linny is making this list not necessarily because of a major increase to his like high performance optimal numbers, but because of a small increase to those paired with the fact that it'll actually be realistic to get them compared to the current teams. The second to last character I want to talk about is Keniche. Right now, Keniche's teams have kind of a big identity problem, which is that he kind of wants to be played with Emilie and or Maoika because he doesn't have enough buffers to just have 3 buff slots that synergize well with him. But if you play him with those characters, the buffers that are good well with him, Keniche, if you play him with those, have 3 buff slots that synergize well with him. But if you play him with those characters, the buffers that are good for Keniche don't really buff the rest of your team. If you're playing Yeon-san, you're not buffing Emilie's damage with the attack buff, and same for Bennett. On top of that, because Keniche's field time is generally pretty long, if you're using Maoika, even if you're using Emilie, you don't really have time to use their burst after Bennett or Yeon-san burst without losing uptime on Keniche from Bennett or Yeon-san. Because of that, it kind of feels bad to build Keniche teams because you never really know what part of the team building you should be focused on. Durin's release is going to be really nice for him because we're now getting a character that has some off-field damage, but also is the off-field pyro app required and is a team-wide buff because the Res Shred actually shreds the resistances of Dendro, but also pyro, and potentially, if you end up using Albedo, which is going to be one of the things you can do, Geo as well. Keniche, Linny, and Chaska share an aspect here, which is that all 3 of them are pretty reliant on Durin in order to get the upscale they want. That's something that Klee is less reliant on because she's a witch character herself, so she can activate the buff when paired with Fischl, even without Durin. But just 2 witch character combinations that do not include Durin for Keniche, Linny, and Chaska don't tend to be that great. But the last character on the list is a little bit different because the main thing that makes the last character on this list get improvements from the patch is not a buff from Fischl, a buff from Durin. It is the buff to Mona. Mona's buff is massive. You now have basically full uptime unless you have really long field time on her Omen buff. And you're also getting an even bigger increase to reaction damage, which means that specifically reaction damage, that is bait reactions, is getting the 60 damage percent, the 15, or I guess 24 if she's off field, reaction multiplier from her C1, the 80 EM from her C2, and potentially the 15 crit rate from the C4. 4 pyro characters is getting the 60 damage percent, the 15, or I guess 24 if she's off field, reaction multiplier from her C1, the 80 EM from her C2, and potentially the 15 crit rate from the C4. 4 pyro vape reactions is getting the 60 damage percent, the 15, or I guess 24 if she's off field, reaction multiplier from her C1, the 80 EM from her C2, and potentially the 15 crit rate from the C4. 4 pyro characters, the fact that Mona's Hydro application is pretty bad means that she kind of needs to be paired with a second Hydro to enable them properly. And because there's no second Hydro that's a witch, and because we don't have a witch that provides a major attack buff, pyro carries don't tend to have the greatest synergy with Mona. They'll generally have to sacrifice their attack buffing slot in order to still be vape carries with Mona. But Hydro carries do not. When we look at the current good Hydro carries, which are Mualani and Navillette, you're gonna notice they don't have any off-field Hydro, which means doing setups that activate support sets that require specific reactions, like VV, like Cinder City, tends to be really annoying with them. The fact that Molani has some Hydro application, but the duration of it is too short to be helpful for Pyro carries, is actually really good for Hydro carries. Has some Hydro application, but the duration of it is too short to be helpful for Pyro carries, is actually really good for Hydro carries. Because if you open up your rotation with a Mona skill, then do the rest of your setup, and then back to Mona, burst, do the 4 normal attacks required for her full Omen extension. She will have caught her own particles, which helps her energy requirements, but you'll also have a Hydro aura on the enemy with your off-field Pyro ability deployed, which means you can then swap to your Shilonen or your Sucrose or whatever, and swirl Hydro or crystallize Hydro, end up with no aura on the enemy, and then your Pyro starts hitting, so you can actually vape. Now, Neuvillette doesn't benefit from that too much, because his Hydro application is fairly high. Because of that, it's difficult to apply enough Pyro to keep up with him. But that's not the case for Molani, which is the last character on this list. Crystallize Hydro, end up with no aura on the enemy, and then your Pyro starts hitting, so you can actually vape. Now, Neuvillette doesn't benefit from that too much, because his Hydro application is fairly high. Because of that, it's difficult to apply enough Pyro to keep up with him. But that's not the case for Molani, which is the last character on this list. And oh boy, is she getting a major upgrade from this patch. Molani gets to capitalize on pretty much every part of Mona's buffs, except the C4. Molani having Crit Ascension and Molani's best set being Codex means that it's very easy to overcap crit rate on her when you're including the 15 crit rate from Mona's C4. So she generally doesn't get full value from Mona's C4 and only ends up getting the equivalent of about 8-ish% crit rather than the full 50. But even then, because you're getting Hydro Resonance, 60 damage percent, 15 reaction damage, energy so you can Molani burst every other rotation instead of every 3 rotations, EM, full VV uptime because you're now swapping directly from your Anemo to Molani, which is something you cannot do without a second Hydro unit, because you would need to either, if your Pyro is deployed, the leftover Hydro from Molani normal attack won't be enough to swirl, so you have to deploy your Pyro after you swirl, so you only get enough VV uptime for 2 bites right now. You'll now get all 3, or 2 plus burst. Honestly, Molani is really happy with these changes, and the team DPS from Molani is going up by a lot. She is maybe the character that gets the biggest buff, and then on top of that, she was already a fairly strong character, and these buffs are enough to push her into the Mawika and Skirk range. How realistic will it be to get that? Well, it's still Molani. Molani still has a bunch of quality of life potential issues, but right now, the upside of all of those potential issues is DPS that at KQM standard is not all that amazing, but she does have good scaling with investment higher than KQM standard compared to other carries. So at high investment just from artifacts, she's fairly strong, though maybe not quite Skirk and Mawika level, but she does end up fairly close to like a character like Varessa, for example. And if you look at early constellations or signature, she's got some of the strongest in the game, so she does end up on a similar level to those. Now, oh boy, things are something. I still think Molani is a very unforgiving character, so she's not someone I would necessarily recommend, but she actually will be able, honestly, she's gonna start being able to brute force content that counters her. But yeah, honestly, I don't wanna talk about Molani too much, because I feel like I've already talked about Molani a lot in the Mona witchcrafting video. You can refer to that if you want to know more about the synergies in the Molani teams and what she's getting next patch. But overall, that's it for the characters that are getting the biggest meta changes with the buffs. At least from what I've looked at so far. It's possible I've missed things. Honestly, I'm kind of hoping I did, because the more stuff I've missed, the more things I'll have to test when the patch rolls around. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh to Venti and Anemo carries as a whole. I didn't include any of them because while Durin is a buff to them, it's not even close to enough to bring them to the sort of DPS that I think will be able to comfortably clear Fearless. I should also give an honorable mention to Sethos, actually. I didn't talk about Sethos because the only teams that I've found for Sethos that looked like they were really good were teams that do not run healers, right? Basically the same team as Cloyne. But Cloyne has self-healing, so not running a healer on her is fine. not running a healer on Sethos is hell. Because pretty much all of Sethos' combos do not use any iframes throughout the whole combo. So dodging is going to be a pretty big DPS loss on him. And then on top of that, they're mechanically difficult, so it's going to require more focus to get good combos and cancels on Sethos, while also avoiding incoming attacks. But if you are the GOAT, I think there are actually some Sethos teams that do end up approaching that 100k DPS benchmark. I want to make it clear, the 5 characters I've talked about, and I guess the honorable mentions as well, I'm talking about them because they, in my opinion, are getting major changes to their overall meta placement. There are many great characters I haven't mentioned. I don't think Arlecchino is worse than Linny or Cleet, for example. I didn't mention Arlecchino because I think that Durin and just the witch buffs as a whole in Arlecchino teams tend to be side grades or very minor upgrades. I didn't mention Flynn's, despite both Durin and Yahoda adding more options to his teams, because it's really minor changes overall. Same for Nephil. I also didn't mention Neuvillette, because honestly, while Neuvillette does get a new team, he gets multiple new teams actually with Durin, they're all on a similar level to his current teams. I will say, the fact that we're getting Neuvillette teams that don't feel bad about running Pyro plus Dendro is going to be nice for certain enemies that just kind of suck to fight for Neuvillette teams right now, such as the Hera, although obviously Hera's going to be gone by the time Durin comes out, but it is going to give him a little bit more options. It's also going to potentially make him less reliant on Farina, because the value from the Witch buff is going to be fairly high on a bunch of these characters, and that can potentially incentivize using last slot options that are either Mona or a character like Albedo or Fischl that can give Neuvillette one more stack if you don't have his C1. Anyways, I don't want to get it too into the all the details of all the meta changes. I'll be making honestly a bunch of videos next patch about all of the teams I'll be trying. So you can look forward to a lot of like less, I guess, structured videos next patch that just go over my experience, kind of like first impressions videos, but just on a bunch of different carries and their new teams. Let me know if you actually want to see that. Let me know in the comments of this video. As usual,
7 elements of Genshin Impact have undergone their own roller coaster of ups.
Alright folks, so
The Liberty City Preservation Project is a completely free mod for Grand Theft Auto 5 that, in their own words, is aiming to bring all aspects of GTA 4's environment to GTA 5, such as the map, vehicles, pedestrians, interiors, ambience, radio stations, and much more. I've been playing around with it quite a bit since I installed it, and I have to say that it's quite clearly a passion project by people who love GTA 4 and its map. As someone who loves GTA 4, I've been looking at this map all over to check every nook and cranny. The attention to detail in this mod is second to none, and there's a lot that I want to talk about in this video without it getting too long. The mod is available to download through the World Travel Discord, which I'll leave a link to down in the description. So what does the Liberty City Preservation Project have in store? Well, of course, on the very basic level, it brings GTA 4's map into GTA 5. This isn't the first attempt at this, however, as you may well know. So what makes this version any different? Well, the city is alive. There are people living their lives, driving about in cars, as well as populating interiors. The textures have been updated and upscaled to improve their quality while remaining completely faithful to the original. And then there's also the incredible attention to detail, which we will get to shortly. With the mod installed, you can head over to the airport in Los Santos to get the option to fly to either Liberty City or North Yankton. Once you select Liberty City, a short cutscene will play. When it's time for you to head back, come back to Francis International to buy a ticket back to Los Santos. Of course, there's another cutscene for this too. Alternatively, you can drive any vehicle you want to the docks and pay a fee to transport yourself and your car to Liberty City. This of course works the other way around too. If you want, you can also directly teleport to Liberty using F11. With this mod, you also get a working minimap and pause menu that gives you a GTA 5 style version of Liberty City. On the map are some notable locations that you can visit, including fast food restaurants like Burger Shots and Cluckin' Bells, clothing stores like Perseus, bars like Comrades, the Steinway Bells, clothing stores like Perseus, bars like Comrades, the Steinway Beer Garden, and others that you can visit. There are even internet cafes marked here, as well as the Bank of Liberty. You can use your GPS to safely navigate to these places too. They've also included all of the radio stations from GTA 4, all added alongside the regular stations from GTA 5. Alongside porting GTA 4's map, we also had GTA 4's vehicles, which populate the map with some more modern vehicles sprinkled in for good measure. Even the old buses are back in all their glory, except this time they're finally in use. So you'll see them driving around the city. They're not the only buses in the game though, because there are school buses roaming the city too, no longer reduced to lifeless wrecks in the junkyard. The same taxis from GTA 4 are also back, and there's a lot of them driving around as usual. Some of them have also been updated with newer details. Some of the old police cars are still in use too, though the police force has mostly moved on to the use of more modern police vehicles since we were last here, with a wide variety of vehicles in use. All of the vehicles in Liberty also have appropriate license plates, and they're not all the same. As I mentioned before, NPCs are everywhere, and I haven't encountered many bugs relating to them, besides a few of them sitting in places that don't look overly comfortable. The integration is very well done. Police are also overly comfortable. The integration is very well done. In places that don't look overly comfortable, the integration is very well done. Police are also in the correct uniform, and some of them still hang out in the sun. Police are also in the correct uniform, and some of them still hang out in the same spots as they did back in 2008. Some things never change. All over interiors you'll find NPCs hanging out or sitting down or working. There are even prisoners in the prison, as well as guards watching over them, both from the courtyard and the guard towers. There are tourists looking around and taking pictures, police getting into chases and firefights. And this is only the beginning, as they will continue to add more and refine over time. The map itself looks incredible, with every little detail kept in mind. Star Junction looks better than it ever has, as all of the billboards are lit up and animated. The lights around the posters all work, as does everything else. And this is true throughout the map. Everything that should spin does spin. Everything that should spray something does spray something. They've even perfectly preserved the swing sets of death. In fact, they might have made them a little more deadly. I went around the map and checked them all, and believe it or not, they're all terrifying. Overall, the map feels exactly as it should, and with the added fidelity of GTA 5, Liberty City just looks gorgeous. I remember the airport was a big meeting point in multiplayer way back when. Sometimes you'll even catch a jet landing. Happiness Island looks better than it ever has, and if you're wondering about the statue, don't worry, her heart's in the right place. Every part of this map feels like it's been shown the love and care that it deserves, and this is only in early access. As I mentioned before, the textures in the mod have been upscaled using some kind of AI, so some of the text has come out a little garbled, but overall, the upscaling does a fine job. This mod brings over everything from Liberty City into GTA 5, and I mean everything. Every interior that you see in GTA 4 is here, but they're not all accessible. The ones that are accessible are the various apartments that you have in the game, some of which have elevators that you can use to access them, as well as the safe houses from both DLCs, including the Lost Clubhouse in all of its glory, and Luis Lopez's apartment. But of course, there's so much more than that, so I'll just show you them now.
どこだろうか。君がいる場所ならいいの。正夢になっちゃった。私の後ろに。了解。連戦態勢を維持し温存。いい戦術。
Like I mentioned, there are also some other interiors that you can only access if you're able to no-clip through some walls, as they're not accessible any other way. Jimmy Pegorino's house in Alderney has an interior that's only used in a cutscene, so that's hidden inside the house. Yusuf's apartment is also here, it's hidden behind this wall. All of this seems to have been upscaled too. One particular location I remember from a mission in The Ballad of Gay Tony, as well as the multiplayer mode for that DLC, is this building that's enterable only from the roof. You can go through the door on the roof and down into the building, but the door that you can usually walk through has been locked. Thankfully, I can just teleport my character forward and we can progress through to another locked door. Getting past this leads us to the final locked door, which then leads us into this small office. It's a little buggy in here and most of it has no collision, but I bet locations like this are on the team's radar and might be open soon. If you have GTA 5 on PC, then I highly recommend downloading this mod. I have to give huge credit to the team behind this mod because they've done such an amazing job. It's clear that they love this
正夢になっちゃった。どこだろうと君がいる場所ならいいの。
map, and I love what they've done with it.